Neil, Jose Mourinho sacked before even a year and a half of his term. How do we look back at Jose Mourinho? I suppose even in the last two jobs, because with Manchester United, he won trophies and he did well. In all fairness, I mean, as he said, second place was probably my best achievement ever. We all kind of had a little chuckle about that. But then when you see in Manchester United and how they were, he probably wasn't wrong with some of the players that he had. Um, how do you assess how he did with Spurs, and is it the right decision?
It's funny actually. I was having a chat about this with a guy in work today about he's a Spurs supporter. If I'm to assess Jose Mourinho, if you take Pep Guardiola out of the equation, he would have won multiple titles in Spain, and he probably would have won more titles in England, right? I think he would have done better with Spurs without that kind of guy chase him. So Jose Mourinho to me is a guy that he plays this very, very specific game of ball. He likes to play defensive. You see what he's done to Spurs now. Like he's Harry Kane defending on the edge of his own 18-yard box in every game. He got them to buy into it. There was a period where you thought with this pandemic and the way the results were going that, Jesus, they actually might be in with a show here. And it's kind of ran aground now. And the reason behind that is because they're just too negative. The teams that win the league are the attacking teams with the best attacking players that set them up with the most attacking chances. It's as simple as that. That's why Liverpool have done it in the last year. City have done it in the last 5 years. And to win a league, you have to outscore them, you have to outplay them. But every week, week in, week out, you have to outscore that team. And Mourinho just does not set up like that. I don't want to call him an old-fashioned manager, but the days of winning the Premier League with 80 points, 82, are gone, in particular with Pep Guardiola sitting there. So I think Mourinho gave he gave a good run in at Spurs, but just I don't think he was ever going to break the likes of a Liverpool run or a City run. He just doesn't have the tools or set his team up to enable him to do it. So I think he'd be disappointed how it ended up, although this was a kind of a last chance saloon, an unusual appointment. He didn't get a blank checkbook. He didn't get to bring in, 460 million defenders. So I think he was in a hiding and nothing when he started off. It was just interesting how far he could take that group of players.
Is that the problem, Neil? Because he likes to set up in a certain way. I think everyone knows that if you have a squad of players and you're not getting new players in, you need to set up in the best way that is for those players that are there. He had set his team up in a way that he hoped other players would come in and fit in, and he got Højbjerg in. Fair enough, and he did a decent job there, but he didn't get all the players that he wanted there. And I doubt he wanted Matt Doherty to play right full when he was a wing back as well. So it looks like he probably didn't get what he wanted, and he was never going to succeed if he wasn't going to get the players in. He's a big name player person.
Nor at Man United. And let's be honest, when he was at United, he was going up and saying, listen, get me Varane, get me, guys that were absolute established, ready to walk into your first 11, make an immediate impact type of players. I think he fell out with the board of Man United for not getting him Golding at one stage, because Golding would have went into Man United and just transformed that back line. He was an absolute peak of his powers. So yeah, I mean, look, when Mourinho went into Chelsea, he handpicked 5 or 6 players, got Didier Drogba up front. You know what I mean? He when you can pick the best, you have the best. The best teams win the leagues. It's as simple as that. And that's why Manchester City are running away with it at the moment. They just have the best players in the best position. So, yeah, Mourinho was a little bit hamstrung by that. But I just personally thought it was interesting to see how you get on in the kind of mortal world where you had to do it with your Matt Dohertys and your Højbjergs, rather than your Frank Lampards and your Michael Ballack. So, yeah, he probably did as well as he could in that scenario. But where does he go even from here? Like, where does he go? Who takes a punt on Jose Mourinho again? That literally could be the end of him. And in the way it ended today was typical of him storming out. Or was he fired? Was he sacked? Did he walk? So that could be the end of him. You might not see him again.
Okay, Dave, Neil's after taking me question. What happens to Jose Mourinho now? Is this the end of him? Has it caught up on him? He wasn't willing to change his ways. Everyone else seems to be adapting their styles. Even Pep is starting to go a little bit longer in his game. He's not looking to always knock the ball out from the back line. He will ask them to go a little bit longer because they were getting pressed in by Liverpool and all. So he's adapting. Mourinho hasn't adapted, and is that it, or is he just his time's up?
Yeah, yeah, like he definitely seems to have his way, and it seems to be just a one way. Um, can he get a squad of players out there to do it? There's no two ways about it. And could it be successful? But it won't last. That I think that's why he lasts 3 years. To be honest, because it doesn't last. People get bored of it. Players get bored of it very quickly, and they move on. And I think that's why he is this, in inverted commas, 3 year manager that everyone says. People go in there because he wins them trophies, gets their medals, and then they shag off because they want to play better football. And now the next generations just don't want to play it at all. But as to be honest, I won't deviate too much from what Neil said. Very hamstrung at Spurs, can't really get in the players he probably wants. Yeah, trying to make the best of a bad situation there, but you could see half of them were buying in, half of them weren't. You had a small window where they all kind of joined in, but it like, yeah, it all fell apart. Like, the only place I can see him realistically going, like with the Euros just finishing up now in the summer, maybe Portugal, maybe it's the time. Give the old international scene a run, maybe. Go to Portugal, maybe. Who is their manager at the moment?
Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Jesus, that's just no. We'd end up back where we were. The cat is in the bag and all that. No, you're grand. No, I wouldn't.
No, okay. I hear you.
Sorry,
I
I
don't
was
want to
going
shock you
somewhere, but no.
there. Neil, Jose Mourinho. I've always had time from, as he always seems to be a nice fella. Anytime you see him off screen, he always seems to be nice with the kids around the club, the people around the club. And then he goes into this sort of different character altogether that seems to be it's nearly a Balotelli. Why always me? It seems to be
Yeah.
everyone else is ruining my plans. It does his own attitude on the pitch or at the sideline. Does that hamper him?
Yeah, again with Mourinho, because he's won so much. You know what I mean? It's easy to turn around and tell everyone I've won 3 titles or I've won X, Y, and I've won European titles with different clubs. He has an ego, there's no doubt about it, and he is the special one, right? So I mean, there's probably never going to be another special one that proclaims themselves the special one. So that you have to take that with him. I watched a lot. I don't know if you watched the documentary on Amazon where he was in a Spurs, and it actually showed him to be a very easygoing, good talker, excellent communicator. You could see the amount of detail that went into it. But there was another side to him in there where he would alienate a person in the dressing room, and it was almost that he just went for the easiest target, as if to say, this is what's going to happen to you if you mess with me. Luke Shaw was the Man United puppet, and then Dele Alli was the Spurs one, and he really, really made their lives difficult. And it was because they didn't buy into his philosophy, or maybe they showed him a bit of attitude, and it really showed how cutthroat he could be to make an example of a guy like that over a number of weeks. Like Dele Alli was on the bench, I think, for about 9 consecutive weeks. Come off the bench against Stoke away, and he slaughtered him in the interview after the game, saying he wasn't running enough, he wasn't doing enough. So, a lot of his successful teams when he was at certain clubs, they were crying when he was leaving. Inter, the guys were crying when he was leaving. Chelsea,
Yeah.
they loved him. So it's kind of the siege mentality. He builds up a squad. He's brilliant at it, absolutely brilliant at it. But then on the other side, when it's on the way down, maybe year 3, when things aren't going well, he just pulls this pin and really, really makes it bitter. He really leaves kicking and screaming with a sour taste. He did it at Chelsea, even though he loved Chelsea. He did it at United and still his digs at United and Ole Solskjaer. And he'll probably do it at Spurs when he leaves as well. He'll blame somebody. He's already blamed half of them out the door. The defenders aren't up to scratch. I'm still brilliant, but the defenders, they're not good enough to play for me. It's just the way he is. He can be a very toxic individual when it's not going well for him.
Yeah. We'll finish off with that point, Dave. Are the players good enough? Has he got a point?
No. Overall, no. They've 2 or 3 lads who are the basis for the top side, but yeah, overall, no. Without a shadow of a doubt, most of the back line, 1 or 2 in midfield. Obviously, you have Kane and Son, who are pretty much the backbone of that side. And to be honest, Højbjerg, which ironically is his man, because remember when Wanyama was there and what have you, it was Wanyama was sort of like a linchpin of a player who does the donkey work, who does the non-headline grabbing stuff, and then gives the flair players the freedom. And that's what Højbjerg was doing there, and that's exactly why he was brought in. So, like everything else, unfortunately, managers don't get the time. A bizarre timing of it with the League Cup coming up this week. Trophies are so rare, and he could have ironically. Is that why they got rid of him? Because if he won it, it'd be harder to get rid of a guy who's brought a trophy in for the first time since Harry Redknapp. So maybe this is the whole reasoning behind it. Let's get rid of him now because it'll be impossible. I don't know. Something must have gone wrong, because it definitely caught everyone by surprise. But yeah, there's a long way to go with Spurs. There's no two ways about it in relation to be a top side.